So actually, as Terry said, we've known Yvonne for a decade, and Wes Nichols is sitting in the front row. Actually, my first interaction with Marketshare was when I was running Corp Dev at Omniture, and you probably remember this meeting, where this is 2009, so 10 years ago. We had a vision of having an integrated data, it wasn't called a DMP at the time, but a data platform with, now is called an omnichannel DSP. And so, Wes and team came in and pitched, Marketshare, which was, media mix modeling and, views to attribution. And we drew it all on a whiteboard and said, this is a perfect fit. There's only two things wrong with it. We haven't built or bought any of the stuff on this board, and you were transitioning from a services to a software company, so you had no software either. So we were a bit early at that time, but anyway, known these guys for a long time. So Verizon Media Group is a name that is fairly new to the industry, but a business that I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So just make sure everybody understands what it is that you're doing. What is Verizon Media Group, first of all?
Yeah, so Verizon Media is at the intersection of highly meaningful consumer experiences and then a full suite of ad and media solutions. So unpacking it a little bit, on the consumer side, there's a bunch of experiences that you likely know and have used, like Yahoo Mail, sports, finance, HuffPo, and so on. On the ad side, we have a very broad array of connected channels ranging from native and video all the way through to digital out-of-home and connected TV. And those are powered by very unique first-party data that we have and delivered in a brand-safe environment. And then lastly, and this is one of the areas that is not so known about us, we have a media platform that powers the who's who of TV and video. So you were talking about converged TV and so on. So last year we powered about 2 billion hours of streaming, and that came from ESPN, ABC, some of the folks that you likely know well on that side.
Excellent. And of all that, what's your, as Chief Business Officer, where are you focused? What are you responsible for?
So I run the business team. So that team essentially runs that ad platform and the media business. And then I'm the de facto CMO. So I'm responsible for the B2C and B2B teams.
Excellent. Broad purview. And so obviously one of the talking points that we've been all talking about in the industry is the dominance of Google, Facebook, now Amazon. What's your unique offering to the market where the marketers come to you and say, yes, I want to work with you because of X. What is that?
Well, first and foremost, again, on the consumer side, some of these experiences are very, very unique and intentional. When you think about sports, has the most engaged audience. When you think about mail, it's the second largest mail application there. And when folks come in, they stay 50% more, so they are highly engaged and they have very unique, intentional experiences. And when you think about the others that I described, that's one big draw. And then we expand that on other premium experiences, like our partnership with Microsoft and so on. But the marketers who are coming to us, they really value that breadth of channels and how you can engage with them, how you can leverage some of those insights to engage in more meaningful ways. And then, lastly, one of the things I'll say is being part of Verizon, there's the potential and the innovation that comes with 5G and some of those most immersive experiences that are coming up. So, in a nutshell, it's the consumer experiences and it's that performance and quality.
So on Verizon, so right now, what was reported was Verizon Wireless was hesitant to share consumer data, but what's the interaction between Verizon Corporate and Verizon Media Group? Right?
Look, it's interesting because this is something that is public. Earlier this year, the company pivoted to a more customer-centric perspective and created 3 units. One is the Verizon Consumer Business Unit, the other one is the Verizon Business Unit, and then the third one is Verizon Media. So it's one of the 3 core units, if you will, in this customer-centric view. And then, on the data, we get opt-in data that in a privacy-safe way, and that is coming from opted-in Verizon users, just as one example. So the notion of them not sharing data, I think, is a little bit inaccurate. But most importantly, thanks to a bunch of the assets that Verizon has, I'll give another example. One of the connected channels that we work on is addressable TV.
Yep.
So we operate and sell Fios addressable TV as just one of those examples where we take the power of what Verizon can bring and make that more relevant to our customers.
Great, and you did mention other sources of data, your first-party data. How do you use Yahoo Mail or search or that data as part of your offering?
Yeah, look, one of the things, again, when you think about, first, obviously, a lot of our users are logged-in users. When you think about, even in my earlier days at Yahoo, some of the personalization that some of our applications like My Yahoo and so on provided, a lot of those capabilities have moved forward to the forefront. So when consumers engage with you in very meaningful ways and they get value from what you're doing, it also earns you an ability to create more powerful experiences. So there's a breadth of data ranging from, those meaningful experiences, commerce. Last year on Yahoo Mail, we gave consumers the opportunity to interact more with commerce and get billions of coupons that are relevant to them and get a lot out of it and so on. So in all of that interaction, we earn the trust and the ability to leverage that data to power more meaningful experience. Not only on our own and operated experiences, but through some of our partnerships with other premium publishers.
And as far as, you mentioned 5G, and obviously that's a huge focus for Verizon as a company. Can you first talk about the rollout, like when will we all be experiencing that at a high level? And then what will be the benefits to the consumers? But then what are you excited about as far as the Verizon Media Group when that comes out?
Yeah, well, stating what probably a lot of Verizon has been super committed to 5G. The company has a lot of firsts in terms of first wireless deployments and so on. So that deployment has started already. And it's going through some of the major cities and so on. Obviously, there's an adoption curve, and I think the public statement is that we're not going to see much by way of that in the overall Verizon P&L until 2020, 2021, and so on. But when you think about it, most importantly, there's a couple stats. In the same area where you can light up 1,000 cell phones now, you can light up 1 million cell phones with the same level of performance and so on. So it's lower latency, higher bandwidth. Just imagine, what can happen from an entertainment standpoint in live events, and when you intersect that with commerce and advertising and augmented reality and so on, it's just amazing. In LA, we're actually building one of the first 5G stadiums and so on. When you take that to society, right, and when you think about not only the effectiveness and efficiency around supply chain and IoT, but also things such as first responders, right? And when you think about first responders in the middle of a high-stress, immediate decisioning type standpoint where you need to gather a ton of data points and so on, and you need to make sure that you have access to that information, it's very, very exciting. So, lots of exciting use cases in society. When I think about our business, I think that it's going to enable incredibly rich, immersive, real-time experiences that, once again, as we think about what we do, which is driving growth for our consumers, our advertisers, and our publishers, it just moves the whole ecosystem forward.
Right. You mentioned streaming TV. One area I wasn't aware of that was within Verizon Media Group that you mentioned was basically you delivering videos. So not driving ads, but actually enabling video with your partners. So first, can you just make sure, since I wasn't aware, can you convey what you're doing for customers? I can name some of those customers.
Yeah. So absolutely. So we have a content delivery network. So that's number 2 to Akamai. So we're the second largest in the world. So think of a ton of bandwidth in lots of places. And then on top of that, we have a premium video delivery platform. So when you think about, the who's who of TV, folks like Fox and ESPN and Discovery and so on, as well as a host of other well-known names like Hulu and so on, who are powering that video streaming into any device over the internet. We're powering that. Last year, we streamed about 2 billion hours of this premium content, and we have a lot of technology. It's been fascinating to me to understand all of the technology that goes into it to make it a very rich consumer experience. And once again, when I think about 5G, I saw Bill Dimas somewhere around today on Conviva, and his team had published a stat that stuck with me, which is that about half of the ads that are inserted in streaming have some issue, right? And a lot of it is around latency and so on. When you think about the power of that greater bandwidth and you're consuming premium long-form video on your handheld device, the power of something like 5G brings a lot of potential into that as well. So anyways, long-winded way to say that we're an integral part of that ecosystem. We're helping largely broadcasters, but also other folks go online and stream and create amazing consumer experiences in doing that.
So since you're in the middle of that, so obviously Terry talked about convergent TV as being, one area that consumers are really driving that, and that's a big focus area for us at LUMA, because we're very bullish on the opportunities there. So what are you most excited about in that kind of broader convergent TV space?
Yeah, well, look, I'm excited about this promise that we've been talking about, this 360 experience for consumers and the ability to connect and engage with them in very unique ways at different points in time, right? So when you think about the ability to do that now, some of our customers on that side of the house are experimenting with what we define as virtual linear, which is, you can take different pieces of the linear feed and create essentially infinite channels. So when you think about the level of personalization and then how you can sync that with that video consumption anywhere, and then how you can connect that with the whole stream from brand awareness all the way to commerce, it just opens up, endless opportunities. So I think it's what excites me is that it just fosters creativity, right? It creates this very unique opportunity to create new experiences. Excellent.
So over the years, we spent a lot of time with the Yahoo team and the AOL team, and then the Oath, teams. And I know, especially the last couple of years, has been a huge effort around just rationalization and consolidation of platforms, because you have AOL.com or advertising.com. You had Brightroll, InterClick, a whole bunch of different assets. So what is the state of that? Like, where are you in that?
Yeah, the TLDR version is we've integrated it.
Yeah.
And we have a very exciting, a big mission for me is to make us really easy and exciting to partner with. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that all of that is under one roof. It's called the Verizon Media Ad Platform, and we're making it seamless to both buy on the DSP and native, as well as the exchange and the SSP and so on. Essentially, the full stack of that offering. And also, in this connected world, looking at all of the different pieces all the way through to, connected TV and digital out of home and so on. A few spaces are growing very, very quickly and are very exciting.
So you're a vendor to all these advertisers, marketers, but you mentioned you're also the CMO, so you're trying to drive traffic to your own site. So if you put on your CMO hat, what are the areas that you're focused on, you're most excited about, et cetera, for that side?
Yeah, so particularly on the consumer side, we deeply integrate customer feedback, product management, so literally like the whole product design, the feedback loops that come out of that, and then we eat our own dog food, in terms of how we connect that with the different experiences that those consumers can have anywhere across those connected channels. So, when you learn upfront, when you use that to iterate quickly on your product, And then when you take all of that and you leverage the data that you have access to and you engage them in the right places, that creates a very virtuous loop. So for me, if there was one word, it would be integration, a customer-centric integration, and that's super exciting.
Excellent. So for our practice, for M&A, we've sold multiple businesses to Yahoo, AOL, together. So can we expect anything coming out in the future?
Should I take my wallet now? So look, a lot of our focus, as you can imagine, with all of this integration has been on execution. And I see a ton of potential in doing that. But having said so, we're always open. We're scanning the landscape. We're looking at a bunch of spaces that are really exciting, where we see a lot of innovation.
Yeah.
So, open to that. But, I can tell you my first 3 months, it's been all, execution.
Yeah, very good. One last one. So we want to move kind of to your past role in Marketshare. So one of the topics that Terry talked about was the full life cycle and understanding that life cycle with a question mark around attribution. There's obviously been a lot of press recently about data and the loss of data. In particular, Google withholding the double-click ID, what's happening with browsers, et cetera. What's your view on the state of attribution, and are we going to be able to take a step forward, or are we taking steps backward? What's
Yeah, well, look, I think, and for a lot of us in this room who are involved in the space and so on, first and foremost, it's about trust, right? So we need to drive trust with consumers. They need to trust that we're going to protect their data, that we're going to, deliver things that are valuable to them, and so on. It's trust with the marketers, and this is where some of the attribution aspects come in. But, as an industry, trust that you're going to invest my money in the way that is really going to drive my business objectives and so on. And then on the publisher side, trust that this ecosystem will earn them the fair share, the fair dollar for all of the effort that they put into creating these experiences. So that's the first thing. I think, we need to do a better job there, and that helps with some of the other areas. Now, you mentioned some of the Google actions and so on. I think it's also something that is interesting for regulators, right? Which is like, hey, as we think about that space, and as much as the R word may be scary, on the other hand, I don't know that it's a great idea for society that a couple companies define public policy, right? And that they literally say, hey, this is what should happen in the ecosystem. And this is something that's very important to a lot of the ecosystem. So my opinion is that, regulators need to get in and understand the right balance and really help the ecosystem thrive. So I think that, as we build more trust and as we get the right balance of private-public sector sort of collaboration there, that is going to help. And in the meantime, I'm seeing a ton of innovation, right? So that's the other part, which is we're a very flexible industry, and we're able to innovate and find solutions that can drive positive impact into the area of attribution. So if I were predicting, I would say, hey, we're going to have a bunch of hiccups in the near term. There's lots of solutions. One of the things that you flagged, what we were doing is we were connecting marketing mix modeling and attribution. So, there's also different ways of getting at a good answer, even when you don't have all of the data points. So even through those hiccups, if you're doing things right, I don't think that's going to make a big dent into that space, but it's
right.
Scary.
First, fingers crossed, and absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like we're out of time. Thanks so much for
Thank you.
Listening.